All right. Senator Blakespear. Item number 4, SB 1066.
Thank you, Chair. This is a much lower tech issue that we're just describing next. Do I have permission to show a picture of a pyrotechnic marine flare box of them?
All right. Thank you.
So this is what I'll be talking about. First, I want to start by thanking the committee staff for working with my office and the sponsors on amendments. We gladly accept them. SB 1066 is a common sense measure to ensure the safe disposal of these pyrotechnic marine flares. The U.S. Coast Guard requires that vessels that are longer than 16 feet and are operating on oceans carry approved visual distress signals for use in emergencies. Most often, boaters carry 3 pyrotechnic flares that are approved for both day and nighttime use. There are several brands of battery-powered alternatives, but some boaters prefer the flares due to their increased visibility during the day. These flares expire 42 months after manufacture, meaning they no longer satisfy Coast Guard requirements. Unused, expired marine flares cannot be disposed of in the regular trash or the recycling. They are explosives, and they must be taken to a facility permitted to accept explosives. Flares also contain chemicals that cause pollution and harm to human health. The California Division of Boating and Waterways estimates 174,000 flares expire in the state each year. And the problem is that nearly all household hazardous waste facilities refuse to accept them. In fact, Alameda County is the only county in California that we found that could actively accept flares, and even they lack the permits necessary to actually dispose of them. As far as we know, there's only one facility in the country that currently accepts flares for disposal, and it is over 1,500 miles away in Missouri. Without viable options, boaters have reported storing them on their boat, shooting them into the air, or dumping them into the ocean. Stockpiled flares are a fire hazard. Shooting a distress signal outside of an emergency is a federal felony. Dumping unused flares can leach toxic metals and other pollutants into the water. Expired flares can end up in the trash or left in front of local government buildings, just as this box was done, like fire and police stations. This results in high costs borne by local governments as they then become responsible for arranging proper disposal. These costs are socialized onto local taxpayers instead of the boaters who use them. We are actively collaborating with Orion Signals, the primary producer of marine flares, and the Recreational Boaters Association to ensure the costs are not so high that boaters stop carrying these emergency safety devices. SB 1066 will put the responsibility for funding and operating a convenient take-back system onto the producers with oversight by the Department of Toxic Substances Control. SB 1066 is supported by a broad coalition of stakeholders, including local governments, park districts, Teamsters, California professional firefighters, individual fire districts, waste haulers, harbor districts, and environmental and public health organizations. With me today, I'm very happy to have Jordan Wells on behalf of the National Stewardship Action Council as a co-sponsor of this bill, and John Kennedy on behalf of the Rural County Representatives of California. If I may invite them to come to the microphone.
Certainly. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blakespear, Chair and members. We greatly appreciate the committee's work on this bill and the proposed amendments. I am Jordan Wells with the National Stewardship Action Council, a nonprofit organization that advocates for an equitable, circular economy. We are proud to co-sponsor SB 1066 with Zero Waste Sonoma, which will solve the marine flare waste disposal problem that is absolutely impacting our cities and counties, especially those located on California's coast. Local governments across the state are having to turn away residents with unwanted marine flares, leaving them with no solution. Desperate for solutions, they acquired over $250,000 in California state grant funding for marine flare disposal pilot projects, which have included temporary collection events. We obtained the data from these grant projects as well as other local governments and have found the cost to manage these explosives varies widely, but as low as $10.55 for Alameda County. A statewide program will result in greater efficiencies of scale and significantly reduce transportation and thereby overall costs that can't be realized with siloed programs and events. We have had 2 meetings with Orion and the Recreational Boaters of California and have been providing the data we've collected and are eager to work with them to create the most cost-effective solution and system possible. SB 1066 will not restrict boaters' choices as we are not banning the flares. Boaters will still be able to purchase flares, however, the cost of disposal will no longer be paid for by all ratepayers, whether they own a boat or not. SB 1066 follows California's 16-year history of shifting responsibility for the end-of-life management of product waste to producers to ensure these costs are no longer inequitably distributed. Thank you for your leadership, Senator Blakespear. Chair and members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in support?
Good afternoon. John Kennedy with RCRC, the Rural County Representatives of California. We represent 40 counties of the state's 58 counties, Sonoma being our largest member. First off, we recognize the importance and the life-saving value of marine flares, but we strongly support SB 1066. Local governments responsible for solid waste management, including management of hazardous waste and household hazardous waste. We run HHW collection facilities, both permanent facilities and temporary events. As you've heard, marine flares are very difficult for us to manage and costly. In our experience with some of our members, it's been about $43 a flare. Again, many times it costs a consumer to buy these at the point of sale. We see these come into our facilities. Sometimes people try to bring them by. Sometimes they will come through in load check programs where they just get thrown in the trash. We have a really difficult decision to make as local governments. If we turn them away from our facilities, there's a pretty strong chance that someone's going to dump them illegally on the side of a road or somewhere else where we will have to take ownership of those and then manage them regardless. And as I said, they're difficult. They're costly to manage. So we support 1066 because it requires the establishment of an EPR program. The producers bring these marine flares into the stream of commerce for very valid purposes, but they're not concerned with the end-of-life management costs or challenges of disposal. A PRO will be able to coordinate and facilitate the collection of events across the state, offer safe and convenient disposal opportunities for boaters and for others, and it will reduce costs for local governments and our HHW management programs. So for those reasons, we're very pleased to support 1066. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others who wish to testify provide their name, their affiliation, and their position.
Michelle Rubalcaba with Nielsen Merksmer on behalf of Waste Management in support.
Thank you.
Matt Broad on behalf of the Teamsters in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Sparks-Kranz with the League of California Cities in support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Kiara Ross on behalf of the town of Truckee in support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Lindsay Goldhorn with Capital Advocacy on behalf of the Resource Recovery Coalition of California in support.
Thank you.
David Krieger for Waste Connections in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kayla Robinson on behalf of Rethink Waste in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Priscilla Kudos here on behalf of a few clients: Stop Waste, Western Placer Waste Management Authority, Solid Waste Association of North America Legislative Task Force, all in support. And then on behalf of the California Product Stewardship Council, we're in supporting concept. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh Gauger on behalf of the County of Santa Barbara in support.
Thank you.
Ryan Elaine on behalf of the California Retailers Association in support.
Thank you.
Chris Scroggin on behalf of Republic Services in support.
Thank you.
Doug Subers on behalf of the California Professional Firefighters in support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
And sorry, I have permission from the following organizations: the North American Hazardous Materials Management Association, Zero Waste Sonoma, our co-sponsor, Sirius Signal, Save Our Shores, Clean Water Action, Marin Sanitary Service, Ban Single-Use Plastics, Northern California Recycling Association, Sea Hugger, Zero Waste USA, the City of Thousand Oaks, and Napa Recycling and Waste Services. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much. Others in support?
Mr. Chair, Luis Sanchez on behalf of the California Waste Haulers Council in support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no one else approach the microphone, let's turn to the opposition. If you're opposed to SB 1066, please approach the microphone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. Jim Lights on behalf of Orion Safety Products. We appreciate the engagement we've had with the author and the sponsors of the bill to this point. We look forward to those continued discussions. I think our biggest concern is the scope of the proposed program. As your analysis points out, total sales for 2023 of the largest producer of marine flares were only $465,000. Presumably, the price of the product will have to go up to fund this type of program, and we're concerned about how much that increase may be to fund this program. Not all flares are created equal. Handheld flares are easier to burn off after their expiration date than aerial flares. And so we look forward to working with the proponents to find a program that is appropriate in scale and effective. We've also found that ongoing programs, when they start tend to have a fair degree of collections, and as they continue, because the flares last for at least 4 years, those collections tend to go down, and so we think periodic programs that might have lower costs to the producer might indeed be more effective in the long run. So with that, we do, again, look forward to continuing to work with the author to find a solution here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
Chair and members, Jerry Desmond with Recreational Boaters of California, coming from a slightly different perspective, as has been mentioned by the sponsors and the author and others. Public safety is paramount here. You have to have 3 flares if you're going off the coast in your boat. And we want to make sure that as a program is established, it is not a deterrent to a boater to purchase a new flare that would have the embedded costs of an EPR program. We have to get to a number that works. At this point, we're not there, but we are working collaboratively. Some of the information we're finding is very interesting. The boaters have paid through state monies for California Boating Clean and Green to put these programs out there, have encouraged our constituents to go to these programs, and some of the data that's coming out is very interesting. Like, what does a boater do with his flare? The Alameda survey that was conducted found that 53% of all the 153 boaters that participated had an average of 48 flares each. The San Francisco event that was held, 53% of 62 boaters said they keep their flares at their homes or on their boat as spares and supplies. So there's a pent-up inventory of flares that will have to be addressed as well. And then we compound it with the fact that the company that produces the flares is almost a dominant in California. So if it's going to be able to raise the costs, and it will, where is that impact on boaters? So we're trying to thread that needle. We're involved collaboratively with the sponsors and the senator, and we're hoping we can get there, but at this moment, we're not there yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Others in opposition, please approach the microphone.
Mr. Chair, members, Sarah Nocito on behalf of the National Marine Manufacturers Association in respectful opposition.
Thank you. Others in opposition. Seeing no one else approach the microphone, let's bring it back to the committee.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator Laird.
Let me say first that I think that it would be great if Senator Allen's extended producer responsibility were adopted, and I wouldn't be doing propane canisters. You wouldn't be doing this, but that hasn't happened yet. On point, when I was elected to the Assembly, there was a highway safety flare plant in Morgan Hill that had released things out the back door for 30 or 40 years. There was a 7-mile plume of contaminated water with perchlorate. And when people talk about costs, it was millions and millions and millions of dollars. And there's one that existed in Senator Stern's district, and there's one that existed in the Inland Empire. And what it required water treatment at the surface in a way that when people were worried about really small costs, it was the government that actually inherited the really large costs. People in one area were for years delivered bottled water and could not use the water that was in their neighborhood. And so it is not just these being piled up somewhere. It is not just a smaller cost. If we do not address this, it's a massive cost that falls on local governments and state governments in a clear way. And so I think it's very important to reach the agreement. I take seriously the opposition's comments, but there's much more at stake in this if these are not properly disposed of. And so I salute you for bringing the bill, and I would move the bill.
Thank you. All right. Other questions or comments? Senator Laird has moved the bill. Seeing no further questions or comments, would you like to? Oh, I'm sorry. You put your hand up.
I sent it to you. I don't know why you're not receiving it.
I don't think we've quite reached that level of.
Well, I have. You haven't.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, boys, get along.
All right.
So I think, I think this is a great bill. I think those people should be paying the cost of it, and if the flares cost more, the flares cost more, because it's, they shouldn't put those costs on other people. And then, I'm sorry, but if you can afford a boat, I think you can afford flares. I didn't think that was a very good argument, just for future reference. But Senator Laird had a great point too. I've got a similar situation where we had a munitions company on the plateau overlooking Santa Clarita, was there for 70 years, and all they did was just dump stuff out the back. It's been 22 years, and we finally just cleaned up most of it, but we still have to continue to filter the water because of the perchlorite plume in the Saugus Aquifer. So there's a lot of costs down the road if we don't do, and I don't know why we haven't done this sooner, so I salute you for doing this bill. Happy to support today.
Righty, thank you. All right, seeing no further. There we go. All right. Senator Blakespear, would you like to close?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Senator Laird, and thank you, Senator Wilk, for your comments on this, and also to all the supporters who came and also the opponents. We're continuing to work together. I think the point about the externalities are there. Somebody is paying them. So the question is who, and also what are the risks we're taking by having those externalities. A boat that has 40 flares on it, marine flares, if there is a fire, the explosives that could happen on that boat, are really substantial and serious. There's a reason that these don't go into the recycling and that they're not supposed to be set off and thrown into the water. So they are toxic, they are explosives, they need to be treated as such. And so this is a program that will hopefully handle that. And I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Blakespear. All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
This is file item number 4, SB 1066. The motion is due pass as amended to Senate Appropriations. Umberg?
Aye.
Umberg, aye. Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. Allen? Allen, aye. Ashby? Ashby, aye. Caballero? Caballero, aye. Durazo? Laird? Laird, aye. Min? Nilo? Nilo, aye. Stern? Stern, aye. Wahab? Wahab, aye. 9-0.
9-0, put that on call. Thank you very much.